Kemi Badenoch is the new leader of the Conservative Party in the UK. A black person leading perhaps the most racist of our major political parties. Shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. I mean, we've seen how the world has swung viciously to the right, with what I would deem bigots and warmongers being entrusted with the lives of millions and threatening the lives of millions more. It was ever only a matter of time before one of those far-righters was black. The civil rights movement fought hard for black people to join the middle classes of American society. They embraced all the values and ideals of the mainstream of a society that was built on European imperialism with extreme forms of racism at its heart. This led to the birth of the black right and the black far right. In the UK, academics like the late Sir Stuart Hall encouraged black people to do the same, move from the margins to the centre of the page, to the heart of European supremacy. In an effort to secure their position, many blacks moved beyond the centre of the page, to the far right. Trump has his blacks for Trump, Nixon had his niggers for Nixon, including the likes of Jim Farmer, a former civil rights leader recruited by Nixon to increase the black membership of the Republican Party, perhaps the most racist of political parties in the USA. Badenoch is a supporter of Boris Johnson, claiming him to have been a great Prime Minister. Boris Johnson advocated the recolonisation of Africa by Britain. Badenoch said that it was wrong to label black people as racism deniers or race traitors, Uncle Tom's coconuts, house slaves or house Negroes for daring to think differently. Her lack of knowledge on issues of race is evident here. She believes that colonialism was a good thing, that racial disparities are often overplayed and not structural, that the teaching of race ideology in schools is, in her words, absolutely terrifying, and that the UK's wealth and economic success is not owed to the history of slavery and colonialism or racial privilege. Daring to think differently. Those are exactly the mainstream views that we have been fighting for centuries. She's saying nothing different from the majority of mainstream society in the UK, the USA, and the rest of Europe. Her thinking's not different, just the same old, same old. Her thinking is definitely no different from those who would see the Conservative Party return to the old days of rivers of blood and the widely hated Margaret Thatcher, who she holds in high regard, by the way. As for the slurs, she may have a point, although she is definitely a racism denier, possibly due to an apparent lack of an understanding of what racism is. As for race traitor, well, that is essentially a non-term. A race isn't a political party with a manifesto, core aim. There can be no such thing as a race traitor. I mean, there are those who oppress people of certain races, so I can see how those who aid them, even though they may belong to an oppressed race, can be viewed as race traitors. But I'd rather just see them as oppressors, and Badenoch is one of those. Uncle Tom, house slave or house Negro are all similar in meaning. They're not slurs that I would use because, as Africans, we're all born subservient to Europeans. Centuries of slavery and colonialism have conditioned us to be led by European values and ideals and their beliefs, and to serve the former slave and colonial masters. Every Black History Month we tell proud stories of those who served European nations in the military, in government, in public service. Proud stories of those who represented their former masters in sport or have achieved in their eyes. Even those discriminated against by the government, the Windrush survivors for example, still proudly boast that they put the great in Great Britain. However, Uncle Tom was prepared to die rather than sell out his fellow slaves. This is something that I doubt Kemi would do. As for coconut, well, colour's never been an issue for me. It's impossible to define what is black and what is white. If being white means being heavily Eurocentric, then that could apply to the majority of black people. To many black people, especially those on the right, white is the new black. Black success is gauged by European values, i.e., how well you've achieved within a European society. Your employment status, your bank balance, the model of your car, and other possessions are all metrics for your success, and they're worth considerably more if gained in London rather than Kingston or Lagos. Now, the more informed know that success in European terms doesn't equate to freedom or even acceptance, as illustrated by Barack Obama's reception and appreciation. Kemi Badenoch may not be a pretty picture to most black people, but she is a reflection of where we're headed. I mean, who knows? In the future, we may move so far to the right that she may be remembered as a black radical.